microphone. Good morning. This is Tuesday, January 14th, and this is the meeting of the Management and Internal Services Committee. Let's begin with invocation. Please bow your heads with me. Lord, thank you for this beautiful, warm winter day, and thank you for the blessings we have, including the right to assemble and govern ourselves. Help us as we make decisions this morning that affect our neighbors and the citizens of the county. And some of these decisions are not easy, but guide us to be sure our actions are based on truth and fairness. In your name we pray, amen. Amen. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. With 3 commissioners present, we have a quorum this morning, and do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the previous MIS meeting?
So moved.
Is there any changes to the agenda?
Not to my knowledge, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving forward, I see nothing on the consent agenda. Our debate agenda starts with our county manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First item you have for your consideration is a service agreement for Project Access. This was an item that was approved in fiscal year 2019 budget. Project Access has made several presentations to this board. We're talked to the folks at Project Access. They're requesting the funds additionally this year. It is a budgeted item. Staff recommends approving the services agreement with Project Access in the amount of $25,000.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved. Next.
Next item you have is a request to purchase 6 Dodge Durango special service vehicles. This is a little bit different. This is kind of filling 2 needs. So we were in a situation recently where our motor pool is starting to really go down, so much so that we're having to, we had one instance recently where we had to send a wrecker to South Georgia to pick up one of our cars that one of our employees drove, which is not a good thing, obviously. So we looked at the possibility of maybe purchasing some newer type vehicles for our motor pool, but obviously it's tough to justify a brand new purchase for a motor pool vehicle. We also had a situation where several years ago we bought Ford Escapes for our fire services division for our district captains. And the year that we bought those Ford Escapes, we approved it, we went through everything, but the year that we bought those, they changed the body style. And as you know, that vehicle got much smaller. Well, we took delivery of them because we bought them, and we have put those things in service. But now we have found out, first of all, they're not emergency equipped, so they're not pursuit type vehicles. They don't have the heavy duty shocks and brakes and all the things that we would need in that type of vehicle. So what we're asking to do here, I've got with Ms. Reese and Chief Wallen and also Mr. Hayes from our fleet department. What we're asking to do here is we're asking for the general fund to be able to buy these Ford Escapes from the fire division, and we've been able to come up with a fair market value of $12,000 per vehicle there. So the general fund would pay the fire division $72,000 for those vehicles. Then the fire division would turn around and purchase the proper vehicles that they would need for their operations, which would be the Dodge Durangos. We looked at a couple of different vehicles. That ended up being the least expensive option that met all of our specifications. We can do that on state contract. The total price of those 6 vehicles would be $187,710, including the emergency markup, the lights, and those things that we would need. So there's a balance there of $115,000, $115,710. Fire Services has the budget savings to be able to cover this, so we figure this is a good time to do this during this budget year. Any savings in the fire fund is going to roll over in the fire service fund. Again, this is a little out of the norm for us to do, but we're accomplishing 2 very specific needs with one action here. So staff recommends the approval of the 6 Dodge Durangos using Sourcewell contract, and also the transfer of the funds from the general fund to fleet to pay for the fire vehicles.
Are we removing 6 other vehicles in the general fund? Or we just did it?
No, so basically what happens is we've got 6 old vehicles that have just lived their life. So we'll surplus those for whatever we can get for them.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, right. And we're actually going to
We're not net adding vehicles.
Oh, absolutely, no. We will gladly get rid of the 6 pool vehicles that we have now that we're having to go pick up on records.
Move to consent.
Second with a question.
Yes, sir.
On the lighting and emergency markups, what are we gonna do on the escapes, I believe it was?
Right. We'll transfer those. So we're actually going to transfer the equipment that'll transfer, but we've got to be able to mark these. I believe Mr. Hayes is here. Did the light bars transfer, correct? Just the marking. The marking was.
Are we going to the LEDs and all like we have on the Tahoes that,
We are.
is that necessary for,
These are our district captain.
don't have those now though.
They do.
They have all the LED lights and all
They do.
on the sides and,
Chief, do you have any other comments to add? All right, I have a motion and second. Motion carries to consent. Internal Services?
Yes, this item is for the inmate medical services, and I'm going to ask Glenn Osteen to come up and present this.
Good morning.
Glenn?
November 21st, we opened proposals for the inmate medical health, and we had 3 companies propose. And in the proposal, we asked for 2 options for the normal care as we have it now, and also for 24-hour care for the inmates. And after evaluation by the Sheriff's Department, they've the highest ranked company is the current company we're using, Correct Health, and they're recommending to go with option 2, which is the 24-hour care for our inmates. And the cost for that option 2 is $597,347.85, and recommending to go into a 3-year contract. And the reason for this, so it's a 5-year contract. The first term is 3 years because Correct Health agreed to cap their increases for years 2 and 3 at 2%. So we won't see a large increase. So go for an initial 3-year term and then 2 1-year options to.
And this is the sheriff's choice.
Yes, ma'am.
Just wondering out loud, I mean, so it's an extra $100,000 for 24-hour service. So are there records of how many times inmates need care after hours?
Lieutenant Woods is here. Come on up, Harvey, and tell us about that.
We have a lot of problems with after-hours care because we have to call in an ambulance service
Okay.
when there's a problem. So
That happen often?
ambulance service is called in, they transport. Hospitals, on the other hand, also admit inmates more readily than they do people in the general public. So there is a cost savings there.
so from the past, there will be a savings versus,
Yes.
And I'm just wondering how many times we, if you know, if not, don't worry about it, but just how many times after hours we have to send good health care?
I don't have a number on how many we send, but I know that we have spent over $100,000 on inmates being hospitalized because they were transported.
Move to consent. Thank you.
second,
So moved. Next.
That's mine. The first, or the only item I have for you today is the agreement with Tyler Technologies for the implementation of software as a service version of Odyssey software. Magistrate Court is currently using Odyssey for their case management system. When we were speaking with Tyler, the company that is the manufacturer of Odyssey, their business model now for customers of our size, which is we have anywhere from 6 to a dozen users, is to move us to their software as a service platform. So in working with them, it turns out that that we can migrate to their software as a service or SaaS platform for $35,700, and for all intents and purposes, our ongoing maintenance cost is going to be roughly the same. Now, in the big scheme of things, the end users are not really going to notice a change because the functionality of the system is the same. And in terms of cost, and it's not on the worksheet that I provided, but we won't have to buy or configure servers anymore. That cost, and it would vary, they essentially priced us out of the on-premise model because for a dozen users, I think we were going to have to get, was it about 14 servers, Sean? They wanted 14 servers. And that's the craziest server to a user ratio I've ever seen. So that many servers, given some of them would be small, but the cost is probably going to be anywhere from 20 to 40,000 based on what all we have to buy to satisfy that. So long term, the county does save money. It's a wash, or we save a little bit. So it's.
So the number of servers was due to storage capacity?
Well, there's storage. There's the different modules of the software. What we've seen in that industry is instead of just buying one large box that does everything, vendors or manufacturers have started to split them out so that they can maximize each system. You have a web server, you have a report server, you have an application server. Sometimes you have a secondary application server. So there's a lot of different things that come into play.
Servers are very expensive to purchase and maintain as well.
Most of them are. There are some, like for this application, some of them would be cheaper. I've seen them as big as 100,000 and as small as 3 or 4, depending on what you need them for. In this case, it makes more sense for the county to move forward with the SaaS as opposed to on-premise.
If we go online, there's plenty of, they'll provide plenty of data storage and,
Yeah.
Yeah, the world is moving to cloud.
yep.
It is, and we've
They want
implemented.
the annual recurring revenue.
That's exactly why they do it. The reason they do that is because they manage the servers, which means that they don't spend a lot of time with our people online trying to figure out how come my server won't work. That's one. They get the ongoing revenue stream is another. They don't have to worry about disparate platforms among all their different customers. Works the same way for everybody every time, and they can roll out their updates that way as well.
Buy Microsoft at the store and on the disk, and you load it. Now they want to charge you a fee every year.
I know you probably don't know this off the top of your head, and I was talking to Glenn about it this morning, and I know this is the way the world's going because I know that, and I do not know other than somebody telling me, but it seems like we're adding a lot of the services and expense, 50 here, 30, whatever. Do you know what we're spending here total maybe? I know
The
we have
monthly
to do it.
services?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a monthly, because this is broken down by month.
Software as a
On
service.
software as
For
a
all the-
service or just
right.
software in general?
All these online are,
Software as a service.
Okay, I can get that information for you.
I was
don't
gonna say,
have
I
it
think,
just for knowledge, I know we have to have it, whatever.
I think the question would be, because we seem to approve lots of different software packages, to lots of different departments that do different things. If it's not too difficult, how about a summary of all the software we have? The base system, people bolting things on all over the place. It'd be interesting to see.
We can get you that. And one thing that we have done with the advent of the Technology Services Division that we really didn't have before, we had a lot of departments that had individual software, and they would bring something to the commission, and they would buy their own software. Now everything is vetted through this division. So they have a handle on everything, and through IT, they have a handle on everything we have. So that wasn't always the case, but it's much better. So it'd be very easy to run that. We budget for that, so we can tell you that number.
Yeah, I'd just like to know the packages. Because I can see that the annual fee is $25,000.
I can provide that for you. And also need, while we're talking about this, I need to make sure I extend some kudos to IT because they have managed the servers effectively. They've been very strong in working with vendors, negotiating with them over time to make sure the county's not taken advantage of.
The other thing to keep in mind with the software as a service is, and mention that, yeah, you would have 14 servers, but now you've got 14 servers that go into the life cycle replacement pipeline. So you have a recurring cost there. The other thing, and I'll ask Michael to touch on it in a minute, is software as a service, because it is in the cloud, actually more survivable than having it resident on a server here.
Right.
But I guess after you vote, Michael can I wanted him to hit on 2 points recently that, on things that you approved, one Barracuda and two, the IBM storage, that will make significant differences in our survivability. Go ahead, Michael.
Regarding the Barracuda, that's our email filtering system, essentially. When every email that comes into the government goes through the Barracuda device. You've all heard, there was a little incident in the Middle East a couple of weeks ago where there was a drone strike, and vengeance and revenge and lots of words like that being tossed around. And one of the things that was in the literature immediately talked about cyber attacks that Iran would make on American government. We've received 65,000 email attempts to log into our email system from IP addresses based in Iran since January 7th up through the end of this past weekend. So
Week.
65,000. So we're not immune from this. If people think, oh, we're county government, the misconception, actually, it's a misconception here because, again, kudos to IT for the excellent job that they do in making sure that we're safeguarded, but a lot of county governments are not able to protect themselves adequately. So they could have been 65,000 emails without the protections that we have in place. Some of those may have been able to log into our system and cause the breaches and the cybersecurity incidents that we warn you about. Promise is not just Chicken Little. This is a real thing. We've seen that in just the last couple of weeks with 5,000 attempts to log into our system. The other item, you approved the IBM V7000. You might not remember that. Several weeks ago, we talked about all the virtues of this system. One of those virtues is that it does something called encryption in place. That means that any of our systems that attempt to connect to that data that are authorized are able to see the data. If there's any attempt to connect to that server in an unauthorized fashion, the data is encrypted, meaning it's just gobbledygook and garbage. So that's something that we didn't have before that we have now. And if you hear me talk about defense in depth, what IT does is they have several different layers and protections that they put in place to make sure that all the data at the core of our systems is kept safe. The same way that you would have a fence around your house, you lock your doors, you have a security system, you have a dog, you have a gun, all those things you have in place to protect yourselves. IT does the same thing digitally, electronically, to make sure our data is safe. Encryption in place is one of those other things that auditors love to look at and see, yes, we're protecting our data there. And we have that now. So that's yet another measure that we put in place to make sure that we're protected.
Motion, gentlemen?
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved. Are there any other items for new business today? None. Do we have any legal matters? Thank you. Staff reports.
Just for your information, you see our personnel savings for the year. We're about halfway through the year, and you can see that the total savings to date, $649,529. Continue to struggle to get people in place, but the good thing is we're saving budgeted dollars.
How many positions do we have right now that are open that we're actively looking to fill? $50? Sounds about right. Well, thank you to the folks who working every day, filling the holes and doubling up on your duties to make sure everything runs smoothly. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Johnson?
No, ma'am.
Report. Internal Services report.
Yes, the first item for your review is the year-to-date budget report. This is for the month ended 31st, 2019. So we should be operating around 50% of the budget. Good news is a lot of the tax revenue has come in, so you'll see that the general fund revenue is higher than it has been. All the other funds are operating well within their budget.
Thank you. Any questions? Internal Services.
The next item is the sales tax update. We have received funds for the month of November. That was almost $2 million, not quite. And our collections now for the last 12 months have been at 8.27%.
Fantastic.
Very good. Investment report.
Yes, the final item is just investment report for your review.
Having no questions, Broadband Utility has a report.
We do. This is the report that Commissioner Allen asked for last year. So if the new committee would like me to make any changes or reflect this information differently, I'll gladly take your input and put those into effect. This just shows our revenue as of the end of December of last year, so for the first 6 months of the fiscal year, sorry. Annual revenue, the balance sheet, and then the revenue for services as it stands at this moment. We did have 3 significant events that took place. I guess I should say 4, because we hired 3 people, and we also signed an IRU with Planners Communications in November 2019. But of course, we've hired Harold Sparrow as our new broadband manager, replacing Lewis Foster. We had now an outside plant manager, Pam Chisholm, and a new splicer, Jordan Moore. And we've increased our capability, and with the IRU, our opportunities for additional revenue. Sparrow is here. Questions you'd like to ask, he's readily available.
Trying to sell this product, or do people coming to us trying to purchase? How's that?
We are actively selling this product. In fact, that's a lot of what Mr. Sparrow's responsibility is, day in and day out, is to work with our partners. As a middle mile provider, we've got connections to the internet, and we're working with some local and regional companies and some national companies in order to make those available, those services available to local businesses and residents. We'll be rolling out some additional initiatives over the course of the next year to get out into the community more, because we do have a great product. We have a unique product because there's not many governments that can do what we do. And we need to take advantage of that in terms of being able to get those services out to our citizens. So I've been working with Mr. Sparrow on making sure that we're getting that word out in the community. He's building, I'll say, a new and improved broadband to make sure that we're ready to take it to the next level.
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding out in rural part of the county that we have this great infrastructure in place, but they can't get
Access.
they can't get online. So however we can aware that takes that private sector to get in place or whatever, and I don't know how you.
We've related to the our partners that they need to get on the ball, and we're working with them. That's part of our mission. Something that Mr. Sparrow and I have talked about many times since he came on board, about aggressively working with our partners. You know, when we sign agreements with a partner, obviously we bring that contract to you. We provide them with the internet access. They're supposed to provide us and our citizens and local businesses with their services. As of right now, I believe that we're doing everything that's our responsibility, and we're attempting to light fires. I'll say it that. So we're out there, we're working hard.
Any other comments or questions on that report? Do we have any commissioner or public comments? Seeing none, I have no items for executive session. We stand adjourned. Thank you. Make sure you don't sit there. Sure.
Good. I'd like to call to order the Public Works and Engineering Services Committee. 7. Already having had the invocation and pledge. Morning.
Second.
Johnson, any changes?
Not to my knowledge, Mr. Chairman.
Stations? Debate.
Chairman, I just happened to notice in this write-up, it said we were doing a rehab. No, it's a rehab. But this is a proposal from Cranston Engineering to amend their current design contract. They're working on a branch of Creek for relocation, and when we got out there doing the field work, we noticed that in this reach there were 3 crossings that crossed the creek. And they're anywhere from okay to poor. So we just figured it was a good time to incorporate that, those replacements in this engineering for construction. Their proposal for designing those crossings is $32,950, which would bring their entire contract up to $100,125.75, and we would recommend.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So moved.
Obviously, our sewers are really causing a lot of people consternation with their signs. I think this is about the third one in the row we've done, but we don't have a problem with it. And this is an encroachment agreement between MBB Brothers LLC and Columbia County for that very purpose, for them to be able to install a sign within our utility easement right away. So we'd recommend approval.
Move to consent.
Are there any neighbors that would disagree with this agreement?
You
Nobody
know,
else?
when we look at these, we are only concerned with the health and care of that sewer. I guess the sign folks do all the rest of that work as far as, is it a good location? Do the neighbors have a conflict with it? We only look at it, when you place that sign there, is it gonna cause us any kind of problem with that sanitary sewer?
Doctor, the sign is going in a location that would be okay to go there if the utility wasn't there anyway, is that correct?
They'll still have to apply for the sign permits. That'll go through full staff review. I'm sure this is something Danielle caught during her review, that they were gonna be in a sewer easement, so she kicked it over to water utility to make sure they were okay with it.
So everybody's on the same page. Second.
So moved.
Thank y'all.
I guess I'm gonna take them, the rest of them. First one we have for you is a bid for a traffic control center video wall upgrade. That wall that's in there now is getting close to probably 10 years old now, the one right here. Okay. So we've put it in the budget to replace that this year. We did put this out to bid. We did receive 2 bids. Low bid came in from Utilicom Supply Associates at a cost of $281,726.52. We did have a budget of $300,000, so we are under our budget on the wall. Staff has recommended approval of this bid.
On this, will this have some sort of ongoing, monthly, yearly?
Not aware of anything. I think we're buying all this outright.
Awesome.
And we're also, just because the question was asked, are there plans to rebuild Building A? This is all portable, so this, we won't have to repurchase this. We'll be able to move it when we rebuild Building A in a few years.
And this was in your budget as well. Motion to approve.
Second.
Next one I have for you is Resolution 20-04. This is to amend the Bartram Trail Section 5 Streetlight District. We did have a request from some residents out there to look at the district complaining of lack of lighting. So Georgia Power went out there and evaluated it, did determine they were lacking 2 lights. Also at the same time, it was determined that the lights that are out there were the unregulated lighting, which those were not replaced during the LED upgrade, only regulated lighting was. This will change all of those lights in there over to the regulated lighting, so it'll upgrade the 13 existing to LED, as well as apply these new ones. I think I might get that right. Let me make sure. 2 LED on 2 new poles and upgrade the 13 existing lights. So that's right. The cost for this is, with zero down up front, is $425.40 per month for all 15 lights, and staff has recommended approval of this resolution.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So moved.
Next one I have for you is a public hearing on a proposed establishment of a streetlight district for Bartram Trail, Section 10, Phase 1, and for Pendleton Place. We have received petition from the resident or developer of those subdivisions. We have the cost associated here, the upfront pole cost of Bartram Trail, $7,491. Pendleton Place, $4,213, with the annual cost of $1,227 and $1,815 respectively. We do have the developer contributions listed as well. So this time we'd like to open up for any public comments. Public comment. Public. All right, well, hearing none, well, there's,
Closing the public.
right. Next one I have for you is Resolution 20-02, 20-03. This is to establish streetlight districts in Bartram Trail Section 10, Phase 1, and Pendleton Place. Have had a public hearing. Staff has recommended approval of the resolutions 20-02 and 20-03.
Motion to consent.
This is a
Debate.
item.
Eight, sorry.
Sorry.
Motion to debate.
Second.
So moved.
That for you is a change order to a contract we had with Blair Construction. E.R. Snell did the widening on Evans to Locks here. We did design the driveway tie-in for Blair's office to function properly with their lowboy. However, once the project was complete, it was determined that their lowboy could not leave their site without dragging. Did ask E.R. Snell for a quote to make the repairs, add the additional asphalt. It came in at $48,000. Blair Construction came in at $15,000. Y'all have approved Blair Construction doing the work previously. Started doing the work, staff was out there, we had to go add more asphalt than we thought we were. Final cost of the work came up to $36,126.50, which is still less than our E.R. Snell quote. So staff has recommended approval of the change to $36,126.50.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved.
Next item is a project framework agreement, Supplemental Agreement 1. We've been working on the design of Hereford Farm Road for quite a while now, and it's required some agreements with GDOT, funded through the state. We did miss one of our supplemental agreements that actually authorized $1 million of this money. We do have a 20% match to that $1 million. It ends up being about an 8% match for the project overall, which is really good. 20% match for the entire project. Ended up with an 8% match for the entire project. We do have that $200,000 identified in the 17 bond for these projects, this and Hereford Farm Road. Hereford Farm Road and Hardwick Maintenance had bond money set aside to cover these costs as well. Staff has recommended approval of the supplemental agreement.
Sorry, I didn't understand what you meant. We missed $1 million.
GDOT, actually, we started spending it without the agreement being signed. So this is signing the agreement, letting us have that $1 million.
Move to consent. Quickly.
Second.
Next one I have for you is a quit claim deed from GDOT to Columbia County. This is at the intersection of Riverwatch and Baston Road. A neighboring property owner actually called and requested that we abandon this property and give it to him. I explained that we did not own it. GDOT, well, he went to GDOT and started asking them to donate to the county. We could then turn around and give it to him. Quit claim deed clearly states out that this must remain county property, and if it ever stops being county property, it has to revert back to GDOT. Staff recommends we accept this land. We cannot do anything with it as far as giving it away. We do have a plan we put together to landscape the area, make it a nice entryway into the county. This is just up from the county line, so staff has recommended acceptance of this quit claim deed and maintenance agreement.
Neighboring property owner had
He wanted to put a
desire
billboard
to
up.
put a billboard up.
Wanted to put a billboard. He now wants to do a strip center of some sort. Billboard wouldn't work because of the church behind it, doesn't meet the spacing requirements, and there's also some commercial property across the street that it doesn't meet the spacing requirements for. So he now wants to acquire this property so he can put a strip center in, is what he's told me.
Saying that he asked for it is generous. He demanded that we give it to him.
Right.
Yes. Ruthless on his request.
So
That's how it all originated with his request to DOT to give it to us so that we could give it to him.
So needless to say, there won't be a strip center on this piece of property.
Cannot be. Based on this deed, there cannot be. It must be county property, and if it ever stops being county property, GDOT gets the first right to it.
Are there restrictions on what the county can do with it? I mean, other than giving it away,
Move to consent.
they're just gonna plant some flowers.
We'll do some
Make it
flowers, some
Welcome to
landscape.
Columbia County signs.
We actually talked about a sign there, welcome to Columbia County.
I think that's a great idea.
I thought you would.
Let's work on that. Second.
So moved.
Next I have for you is the easement on Oakley Pirkle Road. This is at the fire station on Oakley Pirkle Road. AGL is upgrading their gas line along Oakley Pirkle, and they're requiring, what they call it a reclaimer, I guess. It's part of their infrastructure. Basically have to have a 10-foot strip down the side of our parcel to, there's a pressure release area, I believe. Corrosion. To prevent the corrosion of the gas line, they put anodes. They basically it's a sacrificial piece of metal they put out there so that when the reaction of the ground doesn't eat away at the gas line, it eats away these anodes, protects their gas line. Their original request was right through the middle of our property, and we told them no. They came back and decided they could go down the side of the property. Chief Wallen has looked at it. It does not affect his operations. So staff is recommending approval of this easement in the offer of $1,000.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved.
Last one I have for you is acceptance of land improvements for White Oak Business Park plat and the Brighton Landing 2 easement plat. And staff is recommending acceptance of the improvements for these after staff's approval of the final plat, as-built and warranty deed with a 1-year warranty period beginning the day the deed.
Move to consent.
Second.
Legal matters, Mr. Driver?
I need to remember, paraphrase Bruce, time I hear, so that our operating budget is well within budget lines and operating appropriately. That before?
Mm-hmm.
Make you a note card and you can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to answer any questions if you should have them. Budget. Then we have, for your information purposes, our construction projects that we have ongoing through extension and renewal. Surprisingly, we are getting some things done, even though it's been wet, very wet over the last month and a half and continues to be so, but we continue to kind of march on construction projects. Those items in red have had some change, monetary changes since last month. Had expenditures.
How's the Clary-Cut water line going? Done yet, is it?
Just about finished. Matter of fact, we'll be sending letters out probably this week, telling the folks that it's now time to come in and pay your tap-in fee. So we're very, very close.
Are we connecting to Harlem still?
No,
And I thought they were gonna connect something.
oh, no.
We're not connecting. There's the ability for the connection if it's ever needed, but it is not connected this time.
Well, I thought they were
If
gonna.
they would
follow
like to
through.
talk to us about it, we'd be glad to talk with them, and they might want to make a connection, but I ain't connecting them.
Yeah, for some reason, I thought they were gonna connect.
That was, one of their complaints was that we were building a system that wasn't compatible with theirs, and Mr. Clayton, rest assured, it was completely compatible, it's just not tied in. They will have a gap they have to fill to make that
Right,
connection.
right, that's what I was referring.
I see several other items are completed.
Yes, sir. And well, then we have the workload performances, and I did want to just highlight, the 1 million gallons of water treated. Month of December, almost exactly half of what we did like in May and June. Reckon where that other water goes? On the ground. fine. That's what they want.
Want to do,
That's what they want to purchase. I'm glad we have it to sell it to them.
any commissioners or public comment? Executive session items, we are adjourned at 9:12.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Sir.
False rumors.